Hey friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're out here in the Sonoran Desert at Butcher Hill, my favorite off-road spot to test the 2018 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, the uber off-road version of the truck. Sort of what I call the baby Raptor, even though that is a Ford. Nonetheless, it is really built for this, and it's a great way to see how this is going to compare to the Toyota TRD Pro, which I've also brought up here, the Tacoma that is. Toyota Land Cruiser, Jeep Wrangler, and of course the Ford Raptor that I mentioned. And this one also has the Duramax diesel. So really gives us a chance to see how this thing crawls up the rocks, drives down the trail, and really takes advantage of the suspension that this thing's got on it. So let's get rolling. All right, my friends, let's get started here with the Colorado. Quick walk around. What we've got right here is the ZR2, which means quite a bit visually. Right up front, you can see we've got a completely different front fascia, different bumper. And what they've done here is they've cut away this bumper so that you can crawl up over rocks with those tires without bending your bumpers or getting into the brush and things like that. It's kind of a nice visual statement, but it's also functional. Down below, big aluminum skid plate there, and that's a nice thick aluminum one. That's not some cosmetic piece. That will actually protect the engine and a lot of that lower apparatus from the rocks and things like that. We've got a unique grille. In the case of the wheels, we've got 17-inch alloy wheels with Goodyear DuraTrack tires. Now these wheels, because we have the dust package, are colored this way to go with the rest of the sort of dusky blackout theme here. On the hood, we've got an insert, as they call it. It's not exactly a hood scoop, it's just kind of a visual insert. Says Duramax up there, of course, because we do have the 2.8 liter Duramax turbo diesel here, 186 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. That's huge. Lots and lots of torque. Going around the side, this has rock rails on it, as you can see there. Those are going to protect us against bottoming out over rocks and things like that. And as we said in our first video when we actually reviewed this for the first time, those are actually bolted to the cab structure, not the frame. So they actually offer a little bit more flexibility when the truck twists. As you can see as we go around the back, this also has that big light bar. Now that's not a roll bar, that's a cosmetic light bar. The lawyers wanted to make sure you didn't think that was going to protect you in any way, shape, or form. It is a very cool looking piece, and of course there's big lights mounted on top of it. But if you notice, those things are actually awfully close to the cab, and what I found out is they actually do a much better job at lighting up the cab than they do anything else at night. But if you own this truck, you could probably raise those things up just a little bit with some spacers or something like that. Lastly, back there in the bed, this has the optional spare tire mount. That looks really cool. That's like adding a couple of extra testicles to this truck, maybe an extra inch. But it completely gets rid of your bed space. It makes it completely useless back there, but it looks awesome. Looks awesome. And of course, it presents your spare tire and wheel right there for anybody who wants to steal it. Well worth the $500, and that of course is a dealer installed accessory because again, the lawyers don't want you well, suing GM in case something goes wrong with it. Nonetheless, there's a walk around. Enough of me talking, let's get to driving. All right, my friends, this is what we're here for. This is the swimsuit models in the mud when it comes to trucks. We are going straight up Butcher Hill here. Not the most technical, not the most challenging off-road course, but it's the best I'm willing to do here with a brand new truck that doesn't belong to me. So what we're going to do here is I do have front locking and rear locking differentials. I've got 4 high, 4 low. I'm going to start out in 4 low because I have been here before and I know basically what needs to be done here. We don't need 4 low with all the lockers on at this point in the game. So I'm going to put it in neutral. And I'm going to put it here into the 4 low. It's showing me shift in progress right now. And StabiliTrak is off, which means that if I start getting crazy, the truck's not going to step in and save my life. All right, so here we go. Now this first segment here is a rock face. It's pretty steep. I call it the wall. First thing I'm noticing here is that this diesel engine with its 369 pound-feet of torque is so awesome here. I just have to roll into the throttle ever so lightly and it just goes. It just crawls up this hill effortlessly. Now the gas engine, the V6, will do this just fine, but you just have to lay into the throttle and rev it out. A little bit more drama. This is really what I like about the diesel as the engine choice for this truck. So going up here, this thing actually just shifted into second gear and we're only going 5 miles an hour. But this hill, what this has is it's pretty well packed dirt, but there are a lot of big rocks that like to roll around and get out from underneath you. And it does require a lot of suspension articulation, and that gets us to where this truck really shines above and beyond the Z71. Is this has some extra suspension lift, we've got a little bit of an extra wider track, but most importantly we've got the DSSV dampers. Now these are really exotic, expensive shock absorbers, and you can see there that there's multiple chambers on them, and there's actually even kind of a hot guy in the artwork there. No, I didn't say that, I'm just saying. I did say it, didn't I? Nonetheless, very expensive shocks, and they're basically designed such that this truck can have different shock settings depending on what's going on with the suspension travel. And so they can be very compliant or they can be very stiff depending on what you're doing with the truck and how severe you're going along. Now right now we're just crawling straight up this hill, and I've been able to talk and have this conversation with you, which means it's been pretty darn effortless so far. The main thing here as we start getting up here is a lot of articulation is necessary with the suspension because we get into some pretty steep moguls here. As I'm watching the rocks under me. There we go. Easy sleazy. One of the big things you get out of that is the fact that it makes it so much easier to pick a line through some of these challenging and technical spots. You don't have to be quite as careful about some of the things you would be otherwise. Uh-oh. We need the locker. Okay, so I'm going to put this in neutral here, and I'm going to reach down, and I'm turning that on. The light's lit up, and now I can put this back in drive, and that's all it took. That's what the locker's for. Now, we're not going to need the front locker here, very unlikely, because it just isn't that technical, but that's what that's for. If I were to get to a spot where I just didn't have enough traction in the back and I didn't have enough traction in the front and I needed one wheel up there to pull me forward, that's what that's for. And the Toyota TRD Pro does not have that front locker. Now, a lot of people would say, well, not a big deal. It has their software system, which works very well. I would also say it's a good thing. The difference is you've got solid mechanical locking here, and that enables you to put all the power to both wheels. When you have a software system like Toyota has, that actually applies the brakes to one of the wheels that's spinning and then forces power to the other side. So you're not getting full power to both sides. You're squeezing power back and forth, and ultimately it's a compromise. You just don't have that raw full power. So that is one of the benefits of a true mechanical locker over a software locker. Just a technical point there. So I got to tell you, we're getting here to the top of our quick little rock crawl, and this is the most time I think I've spent talking to the camera doing this in any vehicle that I've driven up this. It's that easy, and that's really what I like about this truck, is it makes the act of technical rock crawling or off-roading something to have a conversation through. So that's pretty cool. So what we're doing now is we're at the top of the hill. I'm going to shift it in neutral and come out of the rear locking differential, and I'm going to put it in 4 high. And even though 4 high isn't completely necessary where we're going, I'm going to leave it there because there are a few technical spots down here and there's some sand dunes, and I don't want to get stuck, because where we are out here, it's about $1,000 to get towed home, and there's no cell service, so it would be the rest of the day of me spending a mortgage payment to get home, and I don't want to do that. So what we're doing now is we're taking a little bit quicker ride down the trail and sort of experiencing a different mode of the suspension and this overall structure of this truck. And one of the great things about these DSSV shocks is because of the way they're tuned, they're stiff when you need them to be stiff, like on the highway when you're going at speed and you don't want that soft off-road truck feel. But when you're out here off-roading, you've got that soft off-road truck feel. You can actually go at a pretty good pace out here on a really rocky, rough, rutted road, and it doesn't beat you to death, and it feels comfortable. And I've driven a lot of trucks that do exactly that. In fact, dare I say it, the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro is one that you've got one setting on that suspension all the time, and it tends to be, in my opinion, a little bit compromised for the highway, but still a little bit of a compromise out here, to where if you really start going fast enough, it'll beat you to death. And I'm starting to get some speed. Woo! That's some speed. on this, and you can tell that, you know, it does get a little bit rough, but it's comfortable. One of the other great things here is the structure on this truck is very stiff, which means I'm not getting a lot of rattling and shaking in the structure and in the interior. So it's a solid truck. It's got that nice solid frame underneath. I'm not getting shaking in the door frames. You might be seeing shaking there, but that's my camera bouncing up and down. I like it. Can you tell I'm smitten with the way this drives? It's just a nice, comfortable truck. The steering's got a nice light feel out here. These tires, the Duratrax, have a nice level of grip, especially going up like that rock face. And if it were slippery, they've got a nice bite to them for a vehicle that has to be driven on the street. Also, you can always get a good off-road tire that'll really blow and go out here. But then when you take it on the street, it's like driving with melted marshmallows on your truck. And so these actually do a pretty good job around town and on the freeway of making the truck handle in a confident manner too. So I think they've struck a nice balance there. Overall, pretty pleased. So let me think. Sam's got to think of a few last things to say before I sign out. No, I think I'm done. All right, my friends, I had a great time on this trail. This is a truck that I really do like. I've had a soft spot for it ever since it first was announced, I have to admit. And I drove it last year up in Colorado on the first launch, did a lot of rock crawling up there, as well as some jumping on high-speed Baja. And what I found out is that with the diesel engine that this has, this is a nice combination for doing the slow rock crawl, the hill climbing, that sort of thing, whereas the V6, a better choice if you like high speed, blazing down the trail and that sort of thing. Around town, the diesel is nice also because you give it a fuel economy. I got about 19 mpg with it this week, mostly city, and that's pretty good for a big off-road truck like this. So I do like it a lot. I like it well enough. In fact, it goes on my I'd buy list. There it is for 2018. Very few vehicles on it this year. This makes it. Now I'd have to have $51,000 to buy it. This one's pretty pricey as equipped. We've got the desk appearance package on it, the diesel. On top of 42 grand, that's a lot of options. And of course, that package does include this light bar. There's also that spare tire in the back and a lot of other little things that have pushed that price tag up. That's pretty spendy for a mid-sized truck, a lot of people will say, but you can get into this for around 42 grand with just the gas V6. So you don't have to go that far. I happen to like this truck just the way it is. I even like the color. So there it is. Very happy with the truck. It goes on my I'd buy list, and well, Sam smitten. All right, my friends, that's it for our quick off-road test on the 2018 Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. I had a pretty good time here, as you can tell, and of course I made the I'd buy list, never a bad thing. Kudos to Chevrolet for building at least something I'd buy from them. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Nonetheless, I want to thank a couple of people who helped me out with this video. First is Clint Morrow. He gave me some really nice boots to wear. And I want to thank my friend Danny Bratcher, who helped me with the shooting today. Danny, do you want to shoot yourself? Or no? No, he doesn't want to shoot himself. Anyway, if you liked the video you just saw, click on the big square right there and see another one. Or click on the big round logo right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Woo! Either way, stay tuned.